Welcome back, everybody, to Talk of the Now podcast. And this is Gene coming at you live. And we got Jason coming at you live
Coming at you live.
at the time of this recording, anyway.
Yeah, live when it was recorded live in front of no studio audience at all. Yes.
We were just discussing how much of an idiot I am off air. Just teasing. My wife had an incident where she dropped a can on her toe tonight and it busted open with a little bloody. So go back for her. I haven't done that before, but I have dropped some things with my toes that have hurt badly. One time in the early part of the 2010s, I went out to play went out to play volleyball with some people. And somehow or another, my big toe found a little hole and got stuck in that hole and it wouldn't go. And so I guess that was turf toe or something. I don't know, but I walked around with a limp for 2 weeks. And then a week later, I was at another friend's house and I was just doing a stupid thing where you sort of play with a stool in the kitchen. He had like a couple of stools. And I was just kind of standing there, just shimmying it back and forth with my hands. And it slipped and it fell down on like my middle toe on the same foot. And so I was down for another 2 weeks. Just limping up and down some stairs. It was not a fun summer.
Anyway, now that we made everybody wince,
as Garth Brooks would say, I have to think about that summer. Wait.
Wow.
That's an oldie. Jason, no, go ahead.
You went to the CD collection for that one,
yeah. What's on your mind? What you doing these days?
Oh, just living.
Living large.
Living large. Nothing really pressing right now in life. Just kind of
right.
Yeah, living LIVIN, man.
How's week whatever it is, 5 of marriage or whatever you're on now?
Oh, don't make me remember things. Yes, week 5 or 6 actually. Because whatever it is, there's June 30th, so whatever it is till now, which is August, whatever. Yeah, pretty good. We went and I got a couple other things for the office here. I'm actually going to show the viewers.
A tour.
Yes. I have an IKEA desk an old desk that my mom had that's a corner desk. And then I went and got, if I can get it in there, this IKEA credenza thing. See, it's like cubes things. And then they have kits that will go into all these things. I added the drawer kits to 2 of them and then the door kits to the others.
What do you got, Dr. Pepper there?
We do not talk about the sponsors that are here.
No, that looks like a Dr. Pepper to me.
That'll be a Coke of no number.
Yeah.
Saved
by zero.
Exactly. Yes.
That's an advertisement waiting to happen. I'm just saying.
Yeah. Well, they didn't jump on that.
You're welcome, Coke. No need to send me any check.
So we're getting, I'm getting this office set up as like an official office, which is nice. And then me and my father-in-law are going to build the media storage rack for my plethora of hard copies of movies that I have. So that'll be fun.
Okay. The offices of Jason and Jason and Jason and Jason and Jason.
That's right. Yes. Yes. Injury lawyers. Yes.
Injury lawyers.
Are you injured in a wreck? Yes.
Hit my check. Hit my wreck. Wait. Hit my wreck. Hit my check.
Yes.
That's not on any advertisements.
No, it's not. We're just we're being.
That's
silly.
Cool. I'll have to see what that looks like because
you have to see it in person sometime, Gene.
I need to do something with my hard copies of. I've about decided to go into hard copy DVDs over downloading for things that I really like.
Yeah, I'm the same way. That's what I do. I'll buy
even the CDs as well. Sorry.
I do a Blu-rays of any, like nowadays, obviously if I buy something new, it's going to be a Blu-ray. But I'll get the like steel box version of something that I like or something, I'll get hard copies when I can. I mean, if I see a good deal on like something that I know of on Blu-ray, and then I'll buy a DVD. I'm not upgrading my DVDs to Blu-rays though. I'm not going through and doing all that. I'll keep them as is. But if I buy something new, it's going to be Blu-ray, not DVD. So
and I don't really buy. I mean, maybe people that are into this and understand know better than me, but I just don't care about having the newest, latest, greatest Blu-ray of Gone with the Wind.
No, no, no. I mean, if you've already got a copy, there's no
You
reason to
know.
buy it again. Yeah, no. Um,
Now
but
I will say this. I looked into researched this a little bit, and you have to dig if you're somebody like me and you're into animation and you want to get like the old great Disney feature film animation stuff. There's all kinds of renditions of it. Like there's
yeah,
all sorts of like depending on the movie. Like let's just say you want Cinderella.
yeah,
Um, there's like 4 or 5 different DVD, Blu-ray type
yeah,
versions out there, and there's
yeah.
a
You have to
guy. If I knew the website, I would link it. Maybe I can find it again. But the guy
remember
basically
people
did. Yeah,
while you're here, like and subscribe. There we go.
thank you, Jason. Uh, he basically documented. He had his own dossier basically, where he would list, like for instance, Cinderella, and
Mhm.
he would list all the different DVDs that you can purchase for this, and he would talk about what they've done to it since it's on Disney Plus, so to speak,
Right.
as far as color rendition and he would
Yeah.
just say what they've done and how they've done it, and which, in his opinion, was the best one to buy.
Right.
So that it's pretty helpful if you're wanting to buy,
Yeah.
because I am trying to collect almost all of those.
Yeah. The classic Disney stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I've got some of those. I've got also some of the classic Disney movies that aren't necessarily just animated.
Oh yeah, live actions are great too.
I've got the Herbie stuff, those kind of things. I mean, you just realize, like you said before, and not that this is going to be our topic, but how many movies they put out during those periods. You're like, holy crap.
The live action, and I've talked about this on the podcast
Yeah.
before a few times, that the live action stuff, I'm telling you, pre 1970, I would give most of the movies I've seen 90% an A plus on my liking level. It depends on what you like in a movie. Everybody likes something different in a movie, but what I like in a movie, I've loved
Yeah.
everything that I've seen. Seen many movies that are live action that I'd never heard of.
Yeah.
That I'm just like, where was this movie? Never saw it or heard of it. I mean, a great example that I talked about was Kidnapped. Never heard of that movie. Never saw it. It's from like 1960, 62, and it was an outstanding movie, in my opinion. Just a great story and a great movie. I could go on other ones. The Callaways is another great one. All kinds of good ones that are not just Mary Poppins and typical ones you've heard of.
Right.
Speaking of movies,
yes.
Unless you have anything hardcore on your mind that you want to talk about tonight, I think I have a topic.
Oh, shoot, fire away, G.
Well, let me hit mute so I can cough. Do you need that?
I'm here.
I'm sort of stealing this from another podcast that I saw. Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry, not sorry. And I think it's a good one for us because we talk a lot about cultural things, movies, music, things that we like. Race. We haven't talked racing in a while, but and the thing, this is what the topic that the guy did. He was doing some sort of challenge with a couple of other YouTubers that was basically his top 25 80s movies. And he had hard copies of every one of these that was in his top 25. And so he got me to thinking, because I was like watching it. It was like 12:30 night, way past my bedtime on a weeknight. I just started watching it because he'd gone live and was doing this thing. And he'd pull up. He had tons. I only got like 4 or 5 into it before I finally went to bed. But he had several that were like ones that I would never pick. That were basically what a lot of people might consider to be B movies. But I mean, he had some ones that were obvious hits in the 80s that a lot of people liked. And so that just got me to thinking, what 80s movies do I like, and which ones would be, I won't go top 25, but I was thinking for us as a homework assignment. I know you don't like any kind of homework assignment associated with this podcast, Jason. You just like to come on in. You like to come on the train and go for the 30-minute ride and then get off at your stop. I know how you are. That's okay. Yeah, I do that for the most part as well. However, this is, I was thinking we could come back and do our top 25 80s movies.
Okay.
And if you have any DVD copies, you could show them on the video.
Ooh, we can do that, eh?
Just show like if Back to the Future is one of yours, you just show which DVD copy of that you have. which I don't have that on DVD. I need to get it.
I bought the trilogy on Blu-ray, so you can get it for like 30. You
Did
can
I
get it for
hear-
like $30.
Did they do a steal of that one? I think they did not.
They may have. I just got the regular trilogy,
Yeah.
Blu-ray.
So, what I thought I would do is go through. Now, all I did was while he was talking, I was like, man, I just got to think about this. I started writing
Yeah.
down a little list.
Yeah.
I wrote
All
down
right.
a list of these. These were lists that I came up with, and these are all 80s movies that I like. And I
Okay.
sat back and I thought about it. I was like, I just don't know which ones are my favorites. So I mean, I
Yeah,
know which
that's
ones
it.
are my favorites.
It's
I
a hard
probably-
topic. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm just going to read the list and just to give you an idea of what, and I've got more to list down. I've got to research it a little bit more. Excuse me. But here we go. Amadeus.
There's some that came out in the 80s that I just don't
Mhm.
in my head necessarily associate with 80s. But yeah, Amadeus. Yeah.
Roxanne.
Oh, my first DVD I ever bought, actually, Roxanne.
Really?
Uh-huh.
Who
Love
mows your
that
nose
movie.
hairs?
Yeah. Laugh and the world laughs with you. Sneeze and it's goodbye, Seattle. Yes.
That's a great.
Yeah.
That might have been one of his best acting movies. I don't know.
Yeah,
It's
it was up there. Yeah, you're right. It's up there.
Certainly his best rom-com, if you will.
Yeah, I would say Father of the Bride, he did.
Oh
did
yeah,
well
he did
in-
that. He did that one.
Which
too.
was it was a remake, there was an
That's
old
true.
Father of the Bride.
Okay. So, and I'm not gonna spend a lot of times on each other. You can stop me
Mhm.
when you see when you like. That you want to mention. Starman.
Ugh.
Hoosiers. I like Starman. Hoosiers.
Eh.
Annie. I liked Annie actually.
Yeah, that one's
Driving
not my Driving Miss Daisy.
Driving Miss Daisy. Well, I thought that the music. I'm not into musicals that much, but I just thought they did a great job with the music and the scenes and everything with Annie.
Yeah, I just not my
Um,
favorite musical. So
But I'm not going to give away what my favorites are though. So anyway, Driving Miss Daisy. This is Spinal Tap. Funny Farm.
no,
Yeah.
Spinal Tap needs to be number 11.
But this, why don't we put it at 10? Then it'll be higher. This one goes to 11.
Because this one goes to 11.
Funny Farm, a lesser-known
Funny
Chevy
Farm.
Chase comedy.
Funny Farm is one of his best too. I love that movie.
Which anecdote, Jason fell asleep with me one time. Not with me, but we were in the same room. He fell asleep while we were watching the movie. hanging out.
Clarify things. Anyway, go ahead.
We're both married women, and
Anyway, go on. Yes.
Blue Thunder.
Oh yes, with the Apache helicopter. I actually
Yeah.
had that toy. I had the Blue Thunder toy actually.
Rad.
That's my heart. Rad is my heart.
I know.
I actually bought there is a boutique version of that on Blu-ray that was remastered frame by frame
Mhm.
in 4K Ultra. And I bought it. I paid $38 for Rad
Wow.
because I was just like, somebody took the time to go back and remaster that cheesy 80s movie about bike racing.
Okay. Carrying on, and you can save your anecdotes, by the way, your heavy ones for if you hear it like that'll probably be in my top 20. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Just,
yeah.
You know, you don't want to give away too much. E.T.
Yep.
Top Gun. Some of these may not be. I'm just putting
Yep.
these out there. Top Gun, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure,
Mhm.
Little Mermaid.
No, Little Mermaid that was barely the 80s.
That was
wasn't it?
89. Yeah.
I don't really consider that an 80s movie, but go ahead.
Well, they made it
The,
89.
the animated stuff, I'm like, they could have made that.
Stop
anytime.
Making Sense.
Wow.
The Talking Heads.
Yeah.
Better Off Dead.
Amen. Savage Steve Holland, great director.
The Natural.
Yeah.
Money Pit.
Money Pit's funny. Yeah.
Flight of the Navigators.
Yes.
Navigator, right.
Compliance. Yeah.
Fletch. And Fletch
Fletch.
Lives.
Oh boy.
Let's see. All of the first Star Trek movies, from the first Star Trek the movie to
Really?
Star Trek.
That was must have been 1980.
No, that was actually 79, I think. But,
Yeah, that's not an 80s
Wrath of
movie.
Khan and
And on. Yeah, we're on. Yeah.
what was the other one? Search for Spock, I think, and then
Yeah.
The Voyage Home were all
The
80s
Voyage
movies.
Home. Yep.
Jewel of the Nile.
Oh yeah. And
Glory.
Romancing the Stone. Glory. Yeah, wow.
Answer the Story. Stone. Witness.
Yeah.
Footloose.
Yeah.
Field of Dreams.
Hmm.
Willow.
Willow, yes.
Fox and the
Lucasfilm.
Hound, another animation.
Yeah, the animation to me doesn't count. But yeah.
Oh, I count them because they're made in the 80s. But
Yeah,
you
but
do you. I do me.
they just don't really have an 80s flair to them.
Well, I mean, yeah, they do not have the cultural 80s flair, so to speak, to them. Except
even with some of the ones that were period pieces made in the 80s, still kind of had an 80s look to them.
I watched yeah, it was made in the 80s. I actually watched with my kids the other day the 80s movie, the Disney, oh god, Oliver and Company. That was a very 80s kind of cartoon movie.
Yeah. So was I mean, like Black Cauldron and stuff like that came out.
That was an interesting movie, actually. One of the lowest selling or profitable Disney animated movies from that time.
Yeah.
I said Fox and the Hound. Dead Poet Society was in the 80s.
Oh, great movie. One of Robin Williams' best.
I can't read my handwriting. Oh, The Great Outdoors.
Yeah.
Yes. Was in the 80s. So you just don't think of these movies were in the 80s.
But listen to some of, you did John Hughes. I mean, John Hughes made Great Outdoors too. People don't realize that.
Right. The Great that's on this list. Yep. The Great Outdoors. Let's see. And you can keep in mind, now I don't remember if Rocky 2 was made in the 80s. I know the first one was not, but I don't remember if Rocky 2 was. Rocky 3 and 4 were.
That's a good point. I don't know.
Same thing for the Rambo movies. I think first Rambo might have been made in around 80 or 81.
Yeah.
They all kind of mixed together, Rambo and Rocky.
And sometimes the early 80s almost seem 70s too, like it's hard to kind of distinguish when you watch them.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Mr. Mom, one of my favorites.
Yes, that vacuum cleaner. Dun dun. Yes.
A little trim that mustache, Ron.
Yeah.
There's some great one-liners in that movie. Earl, clean up on we were never on that aisle. He just grabs the telecom thing. Tron.
Yep. Tron, yes.
Another offbeat Disney one.
Yeah.
The Right Stuff was made in the 80s.
Yeah.
And that's a period piece as well that doesn't feel 80s.
No, it does not.
This is one that I think that was a weird movie because it's a period piece. One of my favorite movies. However, you can tell it's 80s because of the score, Chariots of Fire.
Yeah, you can definitely tell an 80s flair to, something set, back in the day.
Mm-hmm. Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Mm-hmm.
As well as Temple of Doom and
Last Crusade. Yep.
Which, by the way, I know you know this, and we talked. I think we did mention it on our Indiana Jones discussion, which you can go back and look at if you want to, people. Temple of Doom was a prequel, wasn't it, to Raiders of the Lost Ark? I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's kind of weird.
Mm-hmm.
And I had that revelation. I'm like, whoa.
Okay, we mentioned all the Back to the Futures are made in the 80s.
Yeah.
The Star Wars Empire Strikes Back was 80, as well as
Return of the Jedi.
Return of the Jedi was 83.
Yep.
Goonies were the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, I don't know if you could get I don't know if you can get more 80s than the Goonies movie, frankly.
Well, you go into John Hughes movies and
that's 80s. True. It's sort of John Hughes like in some ways.
It is. It had a flair that people knew what sold, but it's also one of those classic kids riding bikes in the neighborhood movies. So,
right. Well, you can clearly, if you watch Stranger Things after you watch that movie, you can clearly see where they took some of their hints from.
That and E.T., all of them. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Ferris Bueller, obviously.
John Hughes. Yeah.
Yeah. Another John Hughes. Princess Bride.
Yep.
Big, one of my favorites actually. From the 80s. You'll probably see that on my list. Big is one of my favorites.
He got an Academy Award for that.
Did he really? I didn't know that.
Yep.
That to me is probably who's his not the lady, but the other co-star, the comedian from Saturday Night Live that was in the movie. Jon Lovitz?
Lovitz, yeah.
Oh, he's hilarious in that. I just love that part where he's in there. He's like, "Hey, what are you trying to do? Get us all fired?" Because he's working so hard in the computer company. Crocodile Dundee's, both of those were made in the 80s. That's going to be in my top 20. I'm not going to give my top 20 away, but that one is up there for me. Then we turn to all the great John Candy movies, like we already mentioned one, but Uncle Buck, Summer Rental,
John Hughes. Yep.
Planes, Trains, and Automobiles was in
John Hughes movie. Yep.
Um,
I'm just saying, you can tell John Hughes liked to use certain actors.
I didn't know he was Summer Rental. That's great.
I think so. Yeah.
Um,
If he didn't direct it, he had like some kind of credit on it.
yeah. And then of course we have the Never Ending Story.
Original, it's a German film. If you didn't know that,
No, I did not.
Yeah, originated in Germany. I went and watched the anniversary showing of it back in the dark times when movies weren't really in the theater for that year. And they were showing like and a lot of things had anniversaries that year, so they would just show the anniversary editions in the theater. So I went and saw that one. I saw one that's not on the list because it's not in the 80s. Hunt for Red October, and a couple other movies that had their anniversaries. I was like, I'm going to go watch the anniversary showing in the theater. Why not? I haven't seen it in the theater since that time. So I was like, hey, why not? And yeah, Never Ending Story, they did a whole like documentary thing before the movie. It was really neat.
Wait, was Hunt for Red October, was that 1990?
Yeah, 1990.
Okay, I thought it was around 89 or 90. Okay.
Yeah.
Moving on. The Outsiders was an 80s movie, another period piece.
Yeah.
But has sort of an 80s flair to it.
Yeah, and I'm not really a big fan of it. I get it. Everybody else liked it. Everybody had to read the book or something. I never had to read the book, so I was like, yeah.
One of the strangest comedies I think of that was ever made was made in the 80s. And to me, it's strange because it's almost like a comedy and a drama going on at the same time.
A drama.
Good Morning Vietnam.
Yeah, that one holds a special place in my heart because that to me is Robin Williams being Robin Williams on like the best level. You know, they just basically had to say, this is how this guy acted. And then Robin Williams just went off on that radio show and did it, you know?
Well, for the first half, you think this is just going to be a goofy comedy, but it also has this other element to it.
Oh, it went totally serious Vietnam movie, you know, dealing with the issues there, you know?
A couple of Christmas movies. We had Christmas Story, A Christmas Story, and oh, you know, I love that movie. And
I just get so tired of it. It's just it's depressing.
Well, they do show it a lot.
And it's depressing to me. But yeah.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, just the coloring and everything, it just feels like drab.
I love that movie. Christmas Story, and as well as Christmas Vacation.
Another John Hughes movie.
As well as Home Alone. Was
Another John Hughes movie.
Yes.
John Hughes owned the 80s. Have we not figured that out?
Wait, he was Christmas Vacation?
Yep.
Oh, I didn't know he did the Lampoons.
He was all the Lampoons movies up until they did Vegas Vacation. He said he wasn't even aware they were doing that one.
I thought that Harold Ramis was the Lampoon's Vacation movie.
Nope.
He was the director, I think. Am I wrong?
I don't remember. I don't remember the actual directors, but yeah. John Hughes. I mean, you can tell us John Hughes by the way it's written, you know.
Well, that was the list that I had, just thinking off the top of my head, and did a quick Google search.
Yeah.
But there's more. I looked up Ranker, and here's a few that I missed.
Yeah.
I said Drive Me Stay. I haven't seen this movie, but a lot of people love it. Raging Bull.
Yeah, I mean, you know, boxing movie. You know.
Excuse me. Rain Man was in the 80s.
Yeah, definitely.
It has great
80s.
scenes, but not my favorite movie.
Yeah, definitely 80s. Definitely.
And there's a lot of movies that I think a lot of people like, but I'm just not. I just don't care for. Like, and I just want to mention them because they're out there. Full Metal Jacket, Aliens, Terminator. Terminator's okay.
Yeah, Terminator I get. Aliens I was never a big fan of. I tried to get through it, honestly. It just kind of was boring. And just got too gory for me.
Raising Arizona was in the 80s.
Yeah, that was that was his coming out movie. Yeah.
Let's see. Predator was in the 80s. A lot of people love that movie.
Yeah.
It's kind of odd.
Alien movies never really got me.
And of course, there's all the weird alien and horror movies that I just don't care about. I'm just not into those. Dirty Rotten Scoundrels was in the 80s. I always thought that was a funny one.
Oh, what a great movie. Yeah, that movie is like one of those ones that kind of flew under the radar, you know?
Beetlejuice was in the 80s. Kind of another weird one.
Yep.
Definitely
a Tim Burton film. That's Tim Burton to his his utmost.
One that I didn't see till maybe 10 years ago. Cinema Paradiso.
Yeah. Oh no, you watched it with me. Yeah.
I had no idea.
We watched it as part of our Operation Culturalization one night when I showed it because it's one of my top 10 movies of all time. It's a movie about a kid who was raised in a town that only had the one theater. And it's in Italian with subtitles.
Right.
But it is so well done. I mean, it was just, that's in my top 10 of all time, actually.
Well, since 95% of people are on the outside of that, let me explain the Operation Culturalization. We had a group of friends, short story, that two of the girls that were in the group decided they wanted to culturalize, if you will, our friendships. And so we did things like watch these cultural type movies and went to some plays and ballets.
Museum, ballet. We had the museum stuff.
It was fun.
Then I hijacked it one day and said, we're going to have Operation Cartualization, Cartualization, because we went to see the Art of the Automobile at the High Museum here in Atlanta when they brought all these classic, like one of a kind cars here. And then we came back and we watched my favorite movie of all time, American Graffiti. And that was just like my idea of hijacking the culturalization day. But yeah, it's 80s movies. I mean, Gene, it's when you and I grew up.
Do the Right Thing was in the 80s.
Yeah.
Again, I'm just throwing these out there. Yep. Die Hard.
Yeah. No, thank you.
Entertaining movie, but I don't understand why everybody loves it.
I don't know. It's not a Christmas movie.
The Untouchables. It's a movie that takes place at Christmas.
Right.
Just let's see.
Yeah,
Fast Times at Ridgemont High is a lot of people's favorite.
That one wanted to be a John Hughes
movie. It had
its
moments.
But it wasn't a John Hughes movie.
Some of those comedies, we call them the raunchy comedies, if you will. They had their moments and funny lines and parts in them, but they weren't always this. My cup of tea.
Well, just to me, it was people trying to copy John Hughes and what he did. Nobody wrote teenagers in the 80s as well as John Hughes.
Well, I think there was sort of this there was this kind of line of movies though like that to me that were sort of what you might call the naughty teenager movies. Like another one, this was before that, but like Porky's was one, going all the way back to Animal House, and then just kind of like continued that line of like these are sort of the crazy teenage party movies, if you will.
We call them these days PG-13s.
Caddyshack was another 80s movie. That's one of the that might be one of the most goofball movies of the 80s. I don't know. This one, Ghostbusters.
Yep.
You had to be alive, I think, in the 80s, like alive and know what's going on to understand how big of a movie Ghostbusters was in the mid 80s. It was everywhere.
I mean, huge. They even made a Saturday morning cartoon out of it. We all wanted to go hunt ghosts after that. I mean, it's probably not the best thing for a kid to be exposed to, especially a young kid who's growing up in church. Like, really, we might want to
rethink. Just kind of a cultural phenomena, almost.
Yeah, to the point where they made a second one, and no.
History of the World Part 1 was in the 80s.
Oh gosh,
Spaceballs.
Yeah.
Beverly Hills Cop.
Yep. I'm just burning, doing the neutron day.
That another cultural phenomena of the 80s. I don't even know it would work nowadays. It's just those Beverly Hills Cops movies.
Yeah, the Eddie Murphy kind of comedy doesn't really work anymore.
I didn't think of The Breakfast Club.
Well, John Hughes. Yeah.
Yeah.
John Hughes. I mean, John Hughes, like I said, wrote teenagers. Breakfast Club, Pretty in Pink, 16 Candles. I mean, I'm going to have to say a lot of my top 20 are probably going to be John Hughes movies.
Jason just
he's just
these are my top 20. They're all John Hughes.
Those are my top 20 John Hughes movies.
Stand By Me was in the 80s.
Never liked that one.
You didn't like it? I thought it was an interesting story and movie. Not my favorite movie, just an interesting one.
Yeah. I mean, it had its moments. I'm not saying it was a horrible movie. When I think of stuff that harkens back to my childhood memories, that's not one of them.
Well, here's one. If we had more time, we could go through it more, but The Karate Kid.
Yep. And part 2.
They were just, again, you had to be alive in the 80s to just experience. And I guess it was because that's all we had back then. You didn't have social media distracting everybody.
No, you didn't. Yeah, you didn't have internet.
But movies like Raiders of the Lost Ark, Return of the Jedi, Karate Kid, Back to the Future, those movies, Top Gun, like when those were out, that's all anybody talked about. And they would
Yep.
go to see those movies like every week for a few weeks.
Yeah, I mean, we just went back and forth, and I mean, you played outside with your friends, and you reenacted, and you went out into the woods, and you did things, building forts and just doing that stuff, man.
But I got to
I
imagine
mean,
though, like even college kids at home during 1985. I mean, we'd have to ask somebody that was 10 or 15 years older than us about what they did during those years. But
yeah,
I just got to imagine that even people that age in like 1985, they probably went and saw that movie 3 or 4 times that summer.
yeah. I mean, it was well because that's the idea is that's how we escaped in the 80s was the movies, and TV shows. We had Steven Spielberg's what was the name of the Amazing Stories? Is that the name of that series that was on?
No,
Steven Spielberg's the one that he did. Somebody's screaming at the whatever they're listening to on the podcast right now because they're like, no, it was this.
I almost forgot Batman was in the 80s.
Yeah, it was. That was great. To me, the best Batman are the first two ones.
That might have been the first real superhero movie of the modern time.
Yeah. Well, Superman.
Well, yeah, I'm sorry, you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, Superman. Nobody will ever be Superman compared to Christopher Reeve's, rest his soul. But yeah, those first two Tim Burton Batman to me were the best. Michael Keaton,
Another another example of what I'm talking about with just how a movie used to just be able to take over the culture for like a summer or several weeks. Dirty Dancing. If
yeah.
you knew women back in the 80s, girls in your high school or whatever, middle school,
Yeah.
that's all you heard about.
Yeah. Don't put baby in a corner. Yeah. Oh, and if you watch on a certain streaming network with a red N, their movies that made us. There's one on Dirty Dancing, and it's really interesting. Viacom did that movie, and Viacom was just straight to video for everything. They were just a video release company, and they took a chance because, no, believe it or not, this is how a lot of movies were back then. Nobody wanted to take a chance on it, and so Viacom put that movie out, and the rest is history cinematically. I mean, it's funny sometimes when you watch those things and you think they hadn't experienced the hysteria this movie's about to cause.
The 80s though were just something like they were throwing out so many different kinds of movies, like the Blues Brothers. I'm still looking at a list here. Big Trouble in Little China, Joe versus the Volcano, Revenge of the Nerds.
Yeah,
and Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
yeah, that crazy live action and animated like mix.
Short movie. Circuit.
Oh, Short Circuit. What a great movie. You can tell it
was on the hits of nerve with Jason.
There are certain ones that just like Platoon. I remember. Yeah.
You want to say something about Short Circuit?
Well, I was just going to say that, there was a certain time when there was saying, and then there were odd movies like Dream a Little Dream with Corey Haim and Corey Feldman. There was
Daryl.
Daryl. Wow, Daryl. Holy cow, Gene. Then there was
Blue Thunder.
Yeah, you already mentioned that one.
Oh, did I?
Yeah. And then what was the one? The vampires, Lost Boys.
That was a very popular one for a lot of people.
Yeah. Now my parents wouldn't actually let me watch that one. I didn't really want to watch that one.
Cup of tea.
No, it was a vampire movie, which back then just didn't really set well with people. And yeah, there was a lot of movies. Oh, Monster Squad. You remember that one? That was
I think I ever saw that one.
That's the one where these kids are like monster freaks, like old school monster fans about all the different kinds of monster movies and stuff from back in the day. And somehow magically they're all being transported over their town by plane and they get dropped into the city somehow. Oh, wow. And it's just this whole thing about it. And it's comical.
Are we running out of time? I think we're just about out of time here, Jason.
Yeah, we got about 4 minutes
left. Let me go through a few more things here. Okay, I know this one's going to hit a nail with you. Labyrinth.
Yeah.
Field of Dreams was one of my favorites because I was a huge baseball fan as a 14, 13-year-old.
Yeah.
War Games, Pretty in Pink,
Yeah, Pretty in Pink and all the another John
Red
Hughes.
Dawn,
Oh, Red Dawn. Oh,
Blade Runner.
yeah, that one was odd. That was film noir set in the future. So yeah,
Speaking of odd, Weekend at Bernie's. I mean, talk about a weird concept for a movie.
yeah,
The Lethal Weapon movies.
yeah.
How about oh gosh, what was the oh, I'm trying to remember the movie that had Leslie Hines. What's his name? Leslie Hines.
Gregory Hines.
Gregory Hines. Cop movie. Oh, what was that movie called? Michael
Oh,
McDonald did the soundtrack.
yeah. Oh gosh, it was Gregory Hines. Oh, was it the one with the guy who was Baryshnikov, Mikhail Baryshnikov in it, the Russian guy?
Think so. Oh,
Yeah, yeah,
I should
yeah,
remember
yeah.
that
What
one.
is the name of that movie? Everybody's
Tw-
screaming at their
Twins
computer.
was
Like,
in the '80s. That's a pretty funny movie.
yeah,
I mentioned Willow.
and you got to also mention "Don't Throw Mama from the Train." Um,
Major League was in the '80s. I mean, it's just so many. Splash, Cocoon,
yeah,
48 Hours, Three
you
Amigos.
can tell us where people escaped in the '80s was to the movies. You know,
I could not name off this many that I'm not saying every one of these movies are great, but a lot of them are entertaining or just fun
yeah.
to watch. Turner and Hooch, St. Elmo's Fire.
Hmm.
Again, Risky Business. I don't know what it was. That movie
The
just seemed to take over the theaters for a while.
Big Chill. What was the one movie? Now for that matter, Mystic Pizza.
Officer and a
Um,
Gentleman.
yeah, Mystic
Uh,
Pizza, which got Julia Roberts her start.
is it Say Anything? Which one is it?
Yeah, say anything. Yeah.
Is that the one with the you know the
In your eyes.
yeah
Yes.
Look Who's Talking.
Just a side note about that movie, real quick before we end.
Yeah.
My sister saw Peter Gabriel at the Hollywood Bowl, and John Cusack came out dressed like that with the Ghetto Blaster during that song, only
hilarious.
in Hollywood. Anyway.
Well, anyway, I think we covered.
Yeah, we covered a good gamut.
Jason.
I've got my homework assignment, and I will think very hard. You know, you're going to make my head hurt all week on this. So
I feel like I'm going to have to try to get down in my head what I think are my favorites, and then maybe even try to rewatch it because some of them I haven't seen in 20 or 30 years. So
yeah, and I'll try to compile the hard copies I do have so I can show people a bit of a visual for it. But yeah. All right, man. That
was a blast.
That was a blast. This could be a 4-hour. So one of us is going to have to eventually pay for the full version.
Full version. We may go on. Yeah, we may go on Skype next time.
Maybe.
All right, Jason. Let's close it out.
All right, bro.
Have a good day, weekend, person, whatever you are. All right. See you later.
Bye, y'all.